We're going to call the meeting to order. Good evening. My name is J.P. Boucher, and I'm going to act as your chair tonight. This is the City and National Zoning Board of Adjustment for January 9th, 2024. This evening meeting will be conducted in a hybrid format. The meeting is accessible in person in the third floor auditorium of the National City Hall at 229 Main Street via Zoom at the link posted in all public meeting agendas. Attendance by telephone is available using Zoom connection details. Minutes of tonight's meeting, as well as audio and video recordings, will be available later at nashua.newhampshire.gov Agenda Center. Select Zoning Board of Adjustment. The chair is in control of the proceedings and calls upon all who wish to speak in order as their raised hands are observed. The board follows the meeting protocols procedures identified in its bylaws. The applicant will present their case for 15 minutes, followed by questions by the board. Next, persons wishing to speak in favor of or with questions or opposition will be asked to speak for up to 5 minutes. If there are any questions or opposition, the applicant will have 5 minutes to present a response. Finally, one and only one person with questions or in opposition will be permitted to speak again before the board deliberates and determines an outcome. A timer is used to manage speaking time. Karina Ochoa, our zoning board coordinator, will notify us when 1 minute is remaining, and again when the speaker's time has expired. If you are participating by Zoom and wish to speak when public input is requested, please use the raise hand option, which can be found under reactions on a computer, or the more menu on a phone. The chair will call you in turn. Please use the lower hand option when you have completed your questions or comment. Please mute your microphone until called upon to speak. Note that all votes that are taken during this meeting shall be done by roll call. Tonight, we'll be hearing requests for deviation from the Nashua Zoning Code in form of applications for special exceptions and/or variances. A special exception is a request that seeks permission to do something that the zoning ordinance permits only under special circumstances. To grant a special exception, 5 points of law are required to be met. These are outlined in the application and will be summarized in board motions. A variance is a request that seeks permission to do something that the ordinance does not permit. Variances also have 5 points of law to be met, different from those of special exceptions. Per the City of Nashua bylaws and the State of New Hampshire revised statutes, a minimum of 3 or more affirmative votes are required to approve any application. In addition, this board will hear all cases if a quorum of 3 voting board members is present at this meeting. Any citizen has the right to contest the decision that this board makes. Should we render a decision that you believe is an error, you have the right to request a rehearing. A written rehearing request must be received by the City of Nashua Planning Department within 30 calendar days from the date of the decision. Should this board not grant a rehearing request, you can file an appeal directly to the New Hampshire Superior Court. Please contact Mr. Falk of the Planning Department for more information. For this meeting, we have the following full board members in attendance. We have Mr. Jay Mincara, Mr. Steve Lionel, and myself, J.P. Boucher. We also have an alternate, 2 alternates in attendance tonight, Mr. Josh Neely and Ms. Astafia Boris. We also have staff members with us tonight, Mr. Carter Falk and Ms. Karina Ochoa. Let's start this meeting by taking a roll call attendance. For board members participating by Zoom, please also state whether there is anyone in the room with you, which is required under the right to know law, and state your reason for not attending in person. Mr. Neely.
Present.
Mr. Mincara.
Present.
Mr. Lionel.
Present.
Ms. Boris.
Present. There is no one in the room with me, and I'm via Zoom due to work restrictions.
And Mr. Boucher is present. Alternates may fully participate in discussions, but will vote only if a full board member recuses themselves or if there are fewer than 5 full board members in attendance. For tonight's meeting, there is 2 full board members not present, so the alternates will vote in all cases. And again, there's also the possibility that one of us may recuse ourselves, but there'll be full 5 members here tonight to vote. With that, I'm going to read the first case into the record. going to apologize because I'm probably going to not pronounce these names correctly. The owners, Migdonia Londono and Jose Figueroa, 70 Alder Street. The owners of 70 Alder Street, sheet 139, lot 86, requesting a special exception from Land Use Code Section 190-15, Table 15-1, Number 3, to convert basement into an accessory in-law dwelling unit. It's in the R9 zone, Ward 6. So come on up and tell us what you want to do. So just pull that
Hi.
down so we can hear you, and just state your name and address for the record, please.
Ok, diga el nombre
Victoria Londono,
y la dirección.
70 Alder Drive, Nacho, New Hampshire.
Okay?
And I am Liliana Velasquez, I am her daughter.
Okay.
Okay.
So go ahead and tell us what you want to do.
¿Qué quieres hacer? So she wants to finish the basement, so she can do an in-law apartment
Okay.
for family.
All right. Okay, that's, okay, and I see that there was you received, I think it was signed, right?
Yes.
The accessory dwelling unit affidavit was signed by your mom?
Mhm.
Okay. Okay. Is there any questions for the applicant? Mr. McCara?
I wonder, in looking at the drawing for the apartment, how does the staircase connect to the upstairs, to the rest of the house? Is it through the laundry room?
So there's a main door, and there's a small room here, and then you go down, but she left the laundry there, so that's how it's connected. But each room has doors.
Thank you.
Mr. Neely?
Is there enough parking in the driveway for all the vehicles you're going to have?
Yes.
Thank you.
Any other questions by the board? This was okay. Okay, thank you very much. You can sit down for now.
Thank you, guys.
Is anybody in the audience that would like to speak in support of the application? Seeing none. Anybody on Zoom? No? Okay. Anybody in the audience that would like to speak with questions, concerns, or opposition to the application? Nobody in the audience? Anybody on Zoom with questions, concerns, or opposition? Okay, I'm going to close the public hearing and open the public meeting. Mr. Neely?
I'm in favor of this application. This is a nice little neighborhood. They made the statement that all the cars will fit in the driveway, so there'll be nothing on the street. You won't be able to see anything on the exterior of the building that would denote there's an apartment in the basement. I think I saw 722 square feet. I think I came up with 705, but either way, it's there. They signed the affidavit, so for those reasons, I'm in favor for this application.
Mr. McCara?
Yeah, I support the application for all the reasons already stated. It seems very straightforward.
Mr. Lionel?
I also support the application.
Ms. Boris?
I also support the application.
And myself, again, I think it's pretty straightforward, what they want to do, and I think they've met all the criteria, so I will support the application also. Does anybody want to make a motion? Mr. Neely, thank you.
I would like to make a motion to approve the special exception for Migdonia Londono and Jose Figueroa, owners, 70 Alder Street, sheet 139, lot 86. Land Use Code, section 190-15, table 15-1, subsection number 3, to convert the basement into an accessory/in-law dwelling unit. This is in the R9 zone, Ward 6. This will not create any undue traffic congestion. These folks actually testified that all vehicles will fit inside of their 3 spots in the driveway. It will certainly not overload any public water, drainage, sewer, or other municipal systems. The special regulations are fulfilled. This is in the character of the neighborhood. In fact, as we had discussed, you would not be able to tell from the outside of the house that there's an in-law apartment. They have met all the criteria by signing the affidavit. The square footage fits within the regulations. So for those reasons, I make a motion to approve the special exception.
Mr. Neely, would you like to also add that it is listed in the table of uses? Because I didn't hear you say that.
Yes, I will add also, that is in the table of uses. Thank you for adding that.
I'll second.
Okay, Ms. Lionel seconds. Any discussion? Seeing none, Mr. Neely,
Mr. Neely votes in favor.
Mr. Minkara,
Mr. Minkara votes in favor.
Mr. Lionel,
Mr. Lionel votes in favor.
Ms. Boris,
Ms. Boris votes in favor.
and Mr. Boucher votes in favor. Congratulations, your application has been approved. Thank you very much. With that, I'll close the public meeting for case number 1. You're free to go if you'd like, or you can stay and watch. I'm going to open the public hearing for case number 2. It's for Bernard and Devi Tapa Magaroli, and again, I apologize. The applicant is Ayush Oli, 19 Jennifer Drive. The applicant at 19 Jennifer Drive, Sheet C, Lot 1057, requesting a special exception from Land Use Code Section 190-15, Table 15-1, Number 3, to convert a basement into an accessory in-law dwelling unit. It's in the R9 zone, Ward 9. Come on up, and again, like before, just give your name and address for those who are speaking to us, and just speak into the mic and tell us what you want to do.
My name is Binod Oli, live in 19 Jennifer Drive, Nashua. On behalf me, my son,
Ayush Oli. We're requesting to build.
Can you get a little closer to the mic, or you can pull it up?
We're requesting to build a dwelling unit in our basement.
Okay. Do you have any questions?
We see they have signed the affidavit.
Right. No questions? No? Okay. No questions for Ms. Boris? No?
No questions.
Okay. I think I guess you can sit down. Thank you. Is there anybody in the audience that'd like to speak in favor of the application? Anybody on Zoom that'd like to speak in favor of the application? Okay. Is there anybody in the audience that'd like to speak with questions, concerns, or opposition to the application? Seeing none, anybody on Zoom with questions, concerns, or opposition? Seeing none, I will close the public hearing and open the public meeting for case number 2. Mr. Minkara?
I support the application. I mean, very similar to the last one. It's really very straightforward. It's completely contained within the home. Seems to meet the criteria, and they signed the affidavit.
Mr. Lionel?
I also support the application for the same reasons as Mr. Minkara.
Ms. Boris?
I also support the application for all the reasons stated by my colleagues.
Mr. Neely?
I also support the application for the reasons stated by my colleagues. In addition, it looks like that driveway can fit about 4 cars, so no concerns on parking.
And I also will support the application for all the reasons spoken to. Anybody like to make a motion?
You got it.
Mr. Minkara?
I'll make a motion that the application of Binod and Devi Thapa Mangar Ali, I apologize for the name, and Asha Ali of 19 Jennifer Drive, Sheet C, Lot 1057, for a special exception from Land Use Code 190-15, Table 15-1, Number 3, to convert a basement into an accessory dwelling unit, be approved. That's in the R9 district in Ward 9. We find that it is listed within the table of uses. It will not create any undue traffic congestion or impair pedestrian safety. It will not overload public water, drainage, sewer, or other municipal systems. The special regulations are fulfilled and it will not impair integrity or be without, out of character with the neighborhood, or be detrimental to the health, morals, or welfare of the residents. In fact, you really couldn't tell it was there at all. I'll add that the special conditions have been fulfilled.
Anybody want to second that? Mr. Neely, second. Any discussion? Okay, seeing none. Mr. Neely,
Mr. Neely votes in favor.
Mr. McCara,
Mr. McCarr votes in favor.
Mr. Lionel,
Mr. Lionel votes in favor.
Ms. Boris,
Ms. Boris votes in favor.
and Mr. Boucher votes in favor. Congratulations, your application is approved. Good luck. With that, I'm going to close the public meeting for case number 2. Okay, I'm going to open the public hearing for case number 3. Case number 3, the owner is DSM MBI LLC. Applicant is Rebuild DAPR Engineering LLC, 22 to 44 Northwest Boulevard. The applicant at 22 to 44 Northwest Boulevard, Sheet 1, lots 32 to 33, is requesting use variance for the Land Use Code, Section 190-15, Table 15-1, Number 172, to convert a vacant space previously used by an unfinished furniture store to a research, design, and assembly business. It's in the GOV Zoning Board 1. Welcome.
Good evening, Mr. Chair, members of the board. My name is Morgan Hollis. I'm an attorney at Gottesman and Hollis, 39 East Pearl Street in Nashua, and I'm here representing the owner, DSM Roman 1, DSM MI LLC, applicant, RE Build DAPR Engineering LLC. With me this evening is the operations manager of Ray Build, Chris Stempick. If there are any questions, he's here to answer them. The property address is listed as 22 to 44 Northwest Boulevard. It is essentially, that's the address of the entire Northwest Boulevard Plaza. Northwest Plaza, it's the Demoulas, the TJ Maxx, the Home Goods. The entire plaza has that address, but specifically the portion we're requesting a variance for is the area of the project which is located in the southwest corner or the farthest corner away from where you enter the plaza. If you enter it, Demoulas is on your right, then TJ Maxx, and then there's this vacant building. Used to be, it's part of the building, used to be the unfinished furniture. For those who've been in Nashua a long time will remember it was an unfinished furniture center. And that went out of business, and it's been vacant ever since. There's been a great deal of difficulty finding a tenant. If you went out there to take a look at it, you'd probably realize why it's been empty. It's tucked in the corner. It really doesn't have much visibility. Has its own parking field, but that's almost sideways to the other half of the project. It also is in the corner, which is near the industrial area, so there's a lot of industrial traffic out its back door. The zoning of the property is GB. The store was in a GB use, a permitted use, but as I say, it's been vacant for some time, and no rental activity has been generated, despite various economic times, ups, downs, and right now, vacant space in a shopping center would seem to be pretty well occupied in Nashua. My client focuses on American engineering and product design and assembly. Essentially, they take components that have been designed by others, they design them themselves to make up machinery, and then they assemble these products. They have customers who come in and look at the assembled product to make sure it's what they have agreed to, and then they ship it out, again, disassemble and ship it out. So they have a main office in Framingham, Massachusetts, but they also have an office on Northwest Boulevard if you were headed out to what's now known as the Y building out off of Northwest Boulevard, and you cross the railroad tracks. As the crow flies, it's almost directly behind this building. They have run out of space in that building, and they were looking for a place to do some of their assembly, some of their design work and assembly, and this building was empty and it was nearby. They entered into a short-term lease with the property owner, and then sometime after they were been there, when they applied for an electrical permit, it was discovered that the use does not match what's permitted in the zone. So they're already there, they've been there for a number of months, and the space is a perfect space for them. They needed a wide open space for assembly, they needed an enclosed area, and they needed a loading dock. So they have a loading dock out in the rear, they have plenty of parking, they don't really need parking. They don't have any visitors to the site except the customers occasionally. As I say, the R&D facility is on Northwest Boulevard, and this is central and close to it so that they can practically, in the good weather, walk back and forth between the buildings, even though there's a zone line in between the two. They were looking for years for the proper size, open space, height, et cetera. They are in the process of starting construction on a new building where everything will be combined, but this is where they are for the short term. After discussion with the city, it was determined that they should apply for a variance if they want to stay there, because short term becomes, longer than a few months. The proposal is to utilize the space for a non-GB permitted use for R&D and assembly, and for that we need a variance. I'm going to run quickly through the 5 criteria. The first criteria is the proposed use will not be contrary to the public interest. While it is not a GB permitted use, it's a very benign use. There's no parking demands, no trucking demands other than the one loading dock to the rear of the property, not within the GB parking field area. There are no tractor trailers coming to the front door. In fact, the front door, if you've been out there, you can see it's papered over. They don't really use the front door except occasionally for large assembly products that have to come in. It's a double door. They're going to make a modification to the door if this use is permitted. They will not alter the character of the neighborhood if this use is permitted, because there really isn't going to be any change to the exterior of the building. There won't be any change from what it's been for years. It just won't appear like there's any use there. The windows are papered up so you don't look in and see manufacturing or assembly. It will not threaten the public health, safety, or welfare, or endanger any private rights. This is part of a shopping center serviced by public sewer and water. And there's plenty of access. As I say, the access for the trucks is around the rear where there's another public way, so they don't need to come through the shopping center. Not contrary to the spirit and intent of the ordinance. Generally speaking, the spirit and intent of any zoning ordinance is to preserve values and to protect property rights. In this case, while it's not generally a good idea to mix industrial with general retail business, this is probably the one exception, and it points out the rather poor design of this shopping plaza. Most shopping plazas are either strip across or they connect up in the corner where people can walk under an arcade or something. This is the end of the line. It's kind of what I call the Cinderella of the retail project. And the fact that it hasn't been rented reflects that, frankly. Again, if you grant it, will not alter the character of the neighborhood, and it will not threaten public health, safety, or welfare, and it will generally be in keeping with the spirit and intent of every zoning ordinance, which is to keep uses from adversely impacting other uses in the district. Substantial justice will be done. It'll allow a reasonable use of an empty building by a use which is perfectly compatible with its adjacent uses and its specific location. If you grant the variance, there'll be no harm to the public or any other private rights. And if you don't grant it, it's a substantial detriment to the owner of the property who has tried to lease this out over the years. Number 4, will not diminish the values of the surrounding properties. It's in the corner of the GB zone. In fact, it's right next to the USPS trucking center where the trucks come and go. So this is actually closer to that use than it is to the retail of either Demoulas or Home Goods. It cannot be discerned by anyone driving in that plaza as any particular use one way or another. And the fact that the owner of the plaza has signed off on this application indicates he's not worried about adverse impact of values. Number 5 is the hardship argument. So what makes this property unique, and how does its uniqueness result in there being no fair and substantial relationship between the purpose of the ordinance and the enforcement? A shopping plaza itself is not unique, but we're focusing on this particular corner, and I submitted a map of the site plan that was approved, and as you look at it, and if you drove out there, you can see what I'm speaking about. It really is, as I call it, the Cinderella. It's the unusual portion of a poorly designed. And now, it may not have been poorly designed in concept in that traffic can come and go in between these two buildings, but it's that very nature which makes this particular portion of the building hard to use for general retail purposes. Because of this uniqueness, it's also not particularly visible to the motoring traffic. When you drive into the plaza, either for Demoulas, TJ Maxx, Home Goods, or any of the other stores that are out there, you don't really see it because it's tucked in the back side, and the entry is towards the back corner. It's not towards the Demoulas. So all of that uniqueness combined points out that the whole purpose of this particular ordinance of having GB in this district, keeping all retail uses together, and it's really kind of, I don't want to say it's a spot zone, but it's pretty close. It's just GB on that corner. To enforce it and make this be GB when it's been empty, and here's a reasonable use, there is no fair and substantial relationship between the purpose of that ordinance and its enforcement on this particular parcel. That gets us down to, is the proposed use reasonable given the circumstances? Again, as I say, there is no tractor-trailer truck traffic where you might have at an RD or assembly center. It's a relatively small portion of the building. The loading dock is to the rear. The parking is, other than the parking field which is available that they don't need, the parking for employees is to the rear because the employee entrance is to the rear. So everything is in the back. There's really no impact. Probably won't even notice it, as hadn't been noticed for a number of months before the electrical inspector noticed it. So we think it's a very reasonable use. Happy to answer any questions, but I think we've covered all 5 criteria.
Any questions on the board? Mr. McCarroll?
What generally would be the hours of operation?
In the application, they have stated Monday through Friday, 7 a.m. to 5 p.m., Saturday, 8 a.m. to 12 p.m. I'll also point out the number of employees are represented as 8. Number of employees, they only have the 1 shift, so it's 8. Number of daily and weekly visits by customers is listed as 3 to 5 per month. So you can see it's not really a public activity center. Number of daily and weekly commercial vehicles is 1 per day. You might have a van truck. There might be a tractor trailer if you had big pieces to be delivered, but for the most part, not so many. And the number of parking spaces available are 30 spaces.
Mr. Neely?
I just want to confirm, it sounded like you, when you were speaking earlier, the owner, DSM MB1 LLC, has made a good faith effort to rent out that space to retail over 5 years, just can't find any in the current retail big box environment.
That's correct, yeah. It's owned by the Demoulas family, and they certainly are incentivized to lease everything they can.
Thank you.
Mr. Lino?
I just wanted to clarify, I'm looking at the application and it says that there are 30 employees and the hours are Monday through Friday, 8 to 6 p.m.
Yeah, I think you might have the first submittal, and it was corrected by my client. There's a corrected submittal in the record that says number of employees, 8, Monday through Friday, 7 a.m. to 5 p.m.
Okay.
So that's why I read it in the record. I was afraid you might just have that
thank you.
earlier rendition.
Any other questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anybody in the audience that would like to speak in favor of this application? Seeing none. Anybody in the audience that would like to speak with questions, concerns, or opposition to the application? Seeing none. Anybody on Zoom? I didn't ask for either one.
No.
No, okay. Since there's no opposition, we won't bring back Attorney Hollis. So with that, I'll close the public hearing and open the public meeting. Mr. Lionel.
I have no objections to this. I mean, yes, it's, not permitted in the zone, but I think it's a reasonable use. It's a very low-impact use. I know the site. I remember being a customer in the Mill stores many, many years ago. But yet, indeed, that is a low-traffic part of the plaza, and I think it would be a benefit overall to have a paying customer occupy that site. So I'm in favor of the application.
Mr. Neely?
Yeah, I'm also in favor of the application. This is a great opportunity to support a current Nashua business right around the corner. I also was a customer at Mill Store a long time ago, and it is really sad having seen it sit there for quite a while. This is a great use. I actually think it's going to bring a little more vibrancy to that corner. When I did a drive-by, I think there was one car with 4 tires stacked around it and nothing else going on, so it'll be good to get some movement over there. It's more than enough parking. I counted more than 30 spaces in front of the building there. We did hear some testimony here that DSM MB1 has attempted to fill it with retail. I think we all know how challenged retail has been in the last couple of years with some of these big boxes going away. So for those reasons, I'm in favor of this application.
Thank you. Mr. McCara?
I also support the application. I think when you look at the kind of zoning scheme for the area, the concept, clearly was you have commercial retail out towards the front on Amherst Street where it's visible, and then industrial uses to the rear. And as we've heard and seen, this portion of the building is not visible. So its use for more of an industrial type use makes sense. And in this case, it really is a benign use. The hours of operation don't conflict in any way with the operations of the shopping center, and to the extent that there are deliveries, those would be no different than the types of deliveries you would see to the commercial uses in that plaza. So for all those reasons, I support the application.
Ms. Boris?
I'm also in support of the application for, again, all the same reasons stated by my colleagues.
Thank you. I'm also in support for all the reasons spoken to, and I think that, not that it was make a difference, but, this is going to be somewhat of a temporary use because they're looking to build another facility. So I think it serves a good purpose at this point. So I'll also support the application. Anybody want to make a motion? Mr. Lionel?
I'd like to make a motion on behalf of DSM MB1 LLC, owner, Rebuild DAPR Engineering LLC is the applicant. The address is 22 to 44 Northwest Boulevard, sheet 1, lots 32 to 33, or maybe sheet I can't tell. I guess sheet I, yes, lots 32 to 33. Requesting use variance from Land Use Code Section 190-15, Table 15-1, number 172, to convert vacant space previously used by an unfinished furniture store to a research, design, and assembly business. This is in the GOV Zone Ward 1. The board finds that this variance is needed to enable the applicant's proposed use of the property. This part of the property has been vacant for many years. It is in a less visible part of the plaza. That's the special condition of the property, and the benefits sought by the applicant cannot be achieved by some other method reasonably feasible for the applicant to pursue other than the variance. The board believes this is within the spirit and intent of the ordinance. It is just on the edge of the industrial zone, and this won't really look industrial to the public. The board believes this will not adversely affect the property values of surrounding parcels. We believe that it is not contrary to public interest and that substantial justice would be served. So I make a motion to approve this use variance.
Seconded by
I'll
Mr.
second
Lionel.
it.
Oh, all right.
Well,
Ms. Boris? Okay.
get her name in the record there.
Any discussion? Okay, seeing none. Mr. Neely?
Mr. Neely votes in favor.
Mr. Minkara?
Mr. McCara votes in favor.
Mr. Lionel?
Mr. Lionel votes in favor.
Ms. Boris?
Ms. Boris votes in favor.
And Mr. Boucher votes in favor. Congratulations, your applications are approved. Good luck, thank you. Thank you. With that, I'll close the public meeting for case number 3. will now open the public hearing for case number 4. Case number 4 is Progress Realty Trust, 84 Lake Street. Their request, 84 Lake Street, sheet 102, lot 4. They are requesting the following variances from Land Use Code Section 190-16, Table 16-3. 1, to exceed maximum number of stories, 2.5 permitted, 3 proposed, and 2, for a minimum land area of 40,040 square feet existing, 261,360 square feet required, to construct a 30-unit multifamily building. ZBA approved a 3-story, 24-unit multifamily building on May 24th of 2022. This is in the LBRB zones, Ward 6. Welcome.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, good evening. My name is Andy Perlman, attorney with Prunier and Perlman here in Nashua. With me tonight is Paul Chisholm, our project engineer from Keach Nordstrom Associates. Also with us tonight by Zoom is Mr. Tancredi, the principal of the Progress Realty Trust. Mr. Chairman, I have a handout for the board, so I can get my act together.
Hello, Andy.
Mike, no talking.
Thank you.
Finish your dinner.
If I may, Mr. Chairman, Mr. Tancredi, could you please mute? There you go, thank you. Mr. Chairman, my partner Jerry Pruney was here May 2022, seeking a density and height variance for this very property to permit 24 units in a single building, which this board approved in May of 2022. And so all we're seeking tonight is to add 6 units to what was previously approved. One building serviced by community utilities. So all we're seeking is an additional 6 units to this site. So when we get to the variance criteria, the very same variance criteria that you heard back in May of 22 likewise apply tonight. But we are requesting the additional 6 units because when we redesigned the site and we considered market conditions, we believe we have a better plan to present to you, to present to the planning board, to present to the community. Now, what do I mean by that? I have two points I want to make right off the bat. So we redesigned the site. The initial site that was presented to you is on the second page of the handout that I provided, and that showed a long building running the length of the lot with a parallel parking field right next to that. And then on the other side, you have the fire lane. And so that building, that was designed at 24 units. It's actually a slightly larger building than what we're presenting tonight. And there were large apartment units within that building. Time goes on, we took another look at it, working with the Keach Nordstrom team. And so what we did in this presentation tonight, Mr. Chairman, on the very first page of my handout, you can see that we turned the building to parallel Lake Street. And by doing that, it accomplishes a lot of goals that we believe that the city wants to see. And what I'm talking about is if you are familiar with the design requirements of the downtown district, we're not in the downtown district, in the local business and the RB district, but we're close to downtown, and what the downtown district is trying to do is have buildings right on the sidewalk, and shield the parking behind the building, have buildings at street level, so that you have a much better streetscape than what was originally presented in 2022. The building itself, you can see there are a couple bump outs in the building. There'll be vertical elements to break up the long plane along Lake Street. So we believe we have a much better design, a much friendlier design for pedestrians, hiding the traffic in the back, and it works. Because we have access on 3 of the 4 sides, we can lose the fire lane, so we can really utilize the entire site much better than what was presented in 2022. Secondly, when we looked in the market conditions, the units that were presented in 2022 were approximately 1,300 square foot apartment units within the building. And we took a look at that, and we considered those are kind of bigger units for apartments, because we don't expect a lot of families, we don't expect many 2-3 bedrooms at this site. So what we're proposing now are smaller units, but 6 more units on the site, but they'll be smaller units, and they're going to come in around approximately 900 square feet per unit. But we believe it's a better fit, better fits the market. Again, we don't expect many children at this site whatsoever. So we think we have a better plan, even though it's an additional 6 units, an additional variance. We believe we have a good plan presented to this board. In 2022, Attorney Prunier spoke about a RKG study that the city commissioned that spoke to the need for housing, that spoke to the need for size of apartment buildings, apartment units rather, and those same criteria apply. I provided the same RKG study that was provided, portions of it that were provided to you in 2022. And add to that, we are all now familiar with the 2021 Imagine Nashua Master Plan, which if there's one theme of that master plan, it's housing, housing, housing. All right, so if we're serious about adding housing, we have to grab it anywhere we can. You can see that we have a chart that we provided to you. This is similar to what was provided to you, but I added some additional lots. This is tab A of my handout tonight. And you can see that the per unit land use, we are proposing a per unit land use of 1,335 square feet per unit with these additional 6 units. We think that's reasonable compared to our neighborhood. It's along a little bit of the low end, but it's not out of character with the neighborhood as it's surrounding us. In addition, you can see that I highlighted 72 to 75 Lake Street. If you've driven past there recently, if you drove past this neighborhood a year ago, you would have seen a little rundown gas repair shop on the corner of Lake Street and an empty lot. If you've driven past there recently, suddenly there's a five-story building, and the repair shop across the street has been knocked down. That's going to be used for parking. That lot, 72 and 75 Pine Street, that went forward through a rezoning process, unlike what we're proposing here. And they had to do the rezoning process because it's 2 separate lots, one across the street. That project that has the 5-story apartment building, the 20 units at 72 Lake Street, is going to be using the parking across the street at 75 Lake Street, right on the corner of Pine and Lake. That's all one project. But they had to do the rezoning because they had 2 separate lots. We have 1 lot here. But what that did is it showed that the need for housing, these sites like this can work. And we're proposing something, not 5 stories, but something very similar to what we have before you tonight. And let me talk a little bit more on that 7275 Lake Street project, because if you turn to tab C of my handout, when that project went through the zoning process, they hired Mark Fougere, he's a well-known planner in New Hampshire, to do a fiscal impact analysis. And I provided the cover sheet, I provided the first page of that analysis. I didn't provide the entire text, it's long. But I provided the last page, the conclusions on the last page, and you can see that those 20 units at 72 and 75 Lake Street are going to have a positive annual fiscal impact of $32,000 when we compare the tax revenue versus the cost of school and police and ambulance and municipal services, right? And that's for 20 units. And there's no reason to think that we're not going to have the same positive impact with this particular site at 84 Lake Street than with the analysis that you have for the 72 and 75. So like 72, 75 Lake, we're going to have a positive tax impact at our site with the 30 units. When we turn to our site, and coming back to the heart of the variance, we have a split zone lot. Most of our lot is in the local business. The back portion is in the RB district with using section 190.13B of the code. The proposed use is allowed under a conditional use permit because the use is allowed in the RB district through a conditional use permit. The site is going to be cleaned up. Right now, the site is an old office building, kind of beat up and run down. It's had better days. There's a Quonset hut, a shed in the back. That's all going to get cleaned up and brought to current standards. I think it's fair to say that this site, when we look to Main Street, Elm Street, and working our way toward Pine, we're in somewhat of a transitional area. We have the Lake Street Mill Building, great big mill building from yesteryear. We have, again, the 72, 75 Lake Street. You have the Arell Manor and a number of multifamily projects all around us. So we're surrounded by conventional multifamily apartments, senior living multifamily apartments, single-family homes. And again, you have our chart kind of laying out the square footage. We believe we have a better plan, even though it's more of a variance requested with the turn of the building and the layout of the building. We have a better plan that we believe meets the needs for the city, meets the need for housing, and the site itself meets all the dimensional criteria other than height and density. We meet all the parking, we meet all the routine dimensional requirements that the planning board will review. Mr. Chairman, at this point, I would like to just turn to the variance criteria, unless the board had any questions. I will say that I'm aware that we did receive an email, or you folks received an email from our neighbor, Mr. Marguerite. And he had some very good comments, very fair comments, same comments I would have if I lived next door. I take no offense at any of these comments. Most of the comments that are being made are addressed at the planning board level, such as lighting and parking and fencing and, a good solid row of arborvitae can go a very long way to making a good fence, making good neighbors. So we have no objection to those concerns, but again, most of these concerns can be raised at the planning board. And again, we have approval for 24 units. We're simply asking for an additional 6. And toward the end of this email, there's mention of if we're interested in purchasing his property, and we may have those discussions. So with that, Mr. Chairman, again, the same criteria that you heard back in 2022 apply to this variance case. We don't believe it will contrary to the public interest because we are fitting the character of the neighborhood. We're not going to be impacting any adverse rights for the health and safety and welfare of our community. Our proposed apartment building is consistent with the neighborhood, and again, we're simply seeking the additional 6 units. We have to be consistent with the spirit of the ordinance. Again, we were approved in 2022. We believe that we are consistent with the spirit of the ordinance because the underlying use in the RB district is done by conditional use permit. We have a residential use. We're surrounded by residential uses with at this point, the exception of the Lauren Morris electric shop. Other than that, we're surrounded by residential uses. We believe we're consistent with the neighborhood and spirit of the ordinance. Substantial justice is strong here because we have additional units coming from 24 to 30 units. We're trying to add housing stock to the city. There's no adverse impact to any public rights of the city of Nashua. We don't see that we're affecting property rights, property values to the neighborhood, especially given that we have 24 units approved. Adding 6 additional units is a negligible addition. We don't see any harm in the additional 6 units to this site. And we have a hardship here because, again, we have a split zone lot. The site is currently a commercial site, but the commercial is out of character. If it was a commercial building, it used to be the Ashwood Homes commercial operation. If that were to continue, that would be unusual. That would be out of character for the neighborhood. So we believe we have the hardship in that we have kind of an isolated commercial area, commercial use, and surrounded by residential. So we don't believe there's any fair and substantial reason to prohibit that. And given that we have proposing a residential use that's already been approved residential for 24 units, we believe the additional 6 units is a reasonable use. We would ask for your support for this variance, and Paul and I would be happy to answer any questions of the board. Excuse me one second.
You mentioned that the footprint is going to be smaller than what we approved in 2022?
Oh, let me explain that. First of all, this is just an early design. As the plans show, the 2022 plan had a building that was 60 by 180 feet. This building is slightly smaller by roughly 3,000 square feet, the way it lays out. But don't forget, we're simply here for the density and the height. This building may expand a little bit, 5 feet here, 6 feet there. But currently, as it lays out, it's slightly smaller, which is okay because the units themselves are intended to be small. And the units are going to be a mix of studios and 1-bedrooms.
So this is pretty representative of what it's going to be?
It's pretty close.
Yeah, we're not adding another 30, 40 feet to the...
Oh, no.
Okay.
There was not enough room.
Any questions?
Okay.
Okay, I guess that's it for now.
Thank you very much.
Does anybody in the audience like to speak in favor of the application? Okay, seeing none. Anybody on Zoom that would like to speak in favor of the application? Okay, seeing none. Anybody in the audience like to speak with questions, concerns, or opposition to the application? Come on up, give us your name and address, please. And again, you have 5 minutes, the timer's there.
Thank you, Chairman.
Okay.
Hello, Board. My name is Thomas Marguerite. I live at 4 Lakeside Ave. It's they showed the photo back there. I take up half of the west side of the abutting property, of the abutting 84 Lake Street. I have some concerns with this. I'll just, tiny bit of history. This was left in my mailbox, this notice of hearing. It wasn't served to me, and I never heard of one in 22. So, I'm here because I guess I can't do anything about you guys already approving the previous 24 units. So, the 30-unit building, my concerns are there will be that much more light pollution, that many more people, that many more doors slamming, that many more idle cars, that many, just more commotion in my very backyard. My pool sits 5 feet from that parking spot, and it runs the whole length of the parking lot. I will have concern that when they do tear down the Quonset hut or the garage, that there's potential that it can damage my gunite pool, seeing it's a concrete base that will have to be brought up. I don't know how I can protect myself from, I don't know, how I will know that they will not be able to that the pool will not be damaged by removing that garage. And other than my privacy, which that building will be looking directly over tallest fence that you can put into my backyard, into my pool. Aprovites in a fence, just, it's going to, it's just, it's something that I've worked on this house for 13 years. I've made the backyard my very private backyard. It's blocked in right now by that garage, by some trees, by a fence, and putting that monster apartment building right on top of it. It's concerning to me, but adding 6 more on top of it is what I'm here to oppose.
Just a comment, I don't know if you realize, the original approval had the building on the back part of the property and really abutting your backyard. This design has the entrance going down the side of the back of your property, so.
I will be able to see every single second and third row of
Yeah,
the apartment
yeah.
while I'm laying in my pool, yeah.
Okay,
Either or, wouldn't
Right.
matter.
okay.
And I was just really disappointed that I didn't get the certified letter from the previous 24.
Yeah, unfortunately, the city does an excellent job at notifying, and I know that they've done that, just from serving on this board for the amount of time we have. We do have records, so I'm sure that if you have any questions, Mr. Falk can take a look at back then, if you were
I'd love to
notified.
see if I got served. I mean, I know I didn't get served one, or,
Right. Okay,
I
so at this point, that application was already approved.
Gotcha.
And go ahead, Mr. Falk.
Mr. Chairman, I see a letter to you that was unclaimed. It's right here.
what does that mean?
It means it was sent to you and you didn't pick it up.
Into
right
my
here.
mailbox?
Certified mail.
Certified mail went to, I mean, it's right here, stamped by the post office, unclaimed. Even still, I mean, that's also a case that's already been approved and decided
I understand.
way past the appeal period, so there's nothing that
So-
can be
so-
done about it now.
I understand.
But it was
So-
sent.
Okay,
So the good thing is, you got this notice,
yes.
and depending what happens tonight, if this does move on, where you want to be as at the planning board meeting, this is where the site gets reviewed. This is where you have more of an impact on being the abutter and working, and then sometimes, the clients, sometimes. All the applicants really want to work with their neighbors. Having this applicant, attorney in front of us before, I know that they do work hard to work with the people who are affected. So I just would suggest that you.
I've had
go
2
to-
experiences with them. I will disagree, but
Okay.
maybe other people have different experiences.
Okay.
But I'm here to, my proposal is because of all the 6 extra apartments will cause all the extra noise. There'll be that many more lights, there'll be that many more people in the parking lot, right in my backyard.
Okay.
Thank
Thank you very much for coming. Appreciate it. Anybody else in the audience that'd like to speak with questions, concerns, or opposition to the application? Okay, seeing none, anybody on Zoom? No. Okay, sir. 5 minutes to rebut.
Mr. Chairman, again, Andy Perlman for the applicant. As I said at my outset, many of the concerns from Mr. Marguerite can be addressed at the planning board. For example, most folks coming to these meetings don't know the nitty-gritty details of our lighting standards in the ordinance about downcast lighting, how lighting can't leave the property line, how tight control and shading of lighting. That's all part of the light metric plan that gets submitted to the planning board. And if you don't know that, I would understand, because too often we think of like street lights are going to be, and these great big Klieg lights are going to be coming out of a new development, but that's not how the lighting standards are today. If we damage his pool with our construction, we own it, right? That we are responsible for any damage that we do to Mr. Marguerite's property or any other property. That's a standard construction. I agree that what do we have, a 6-foot height limitation on fencing, right? Even if it is 8-foot height, that's not going to do it. We're going to need some trees, we're going to need some arborvitae, we're going to need some much stronger buffer because Mr. Marguerite's not wrong. From his backyard, you're gonna look up, you're gonna see the top of on a 6-foot fence, you can see over the fence. A 20-foot arborvitae, maybe not, right? And I've seen them, they're very strong buffers, and so we can address those issues at the planning board. But again, we believe the 6 additional units for this site will have little to no impact for the community, so, other than adding housing stock, so, thank you.
Any questions? No. Thank you. Thank you very much. Sir, you have 5 minutes to rebut anything that was spoken to. If you'd like to come up, or you don't have to. Just give us your name and an address, just for the record again.
It's Thomas Marguerite, 4 Lakeside Ave. Vegetation is just going to end up in my pool. I know this is a planning board issue, and I think he just was talking about lighting. It wasn't really the noise pollution that I'm really concerned about all 24 hours a day, the construction noise. But it would be, he didn't really address the sound pollution, the aprovites. I guess we can deal with that at the planning board for the 24 or 30 unit building. That's all I have to say.
Okay, with that, I'm going to close the public hearing and open the public meeting. Mr. Neely.
I'm generally in favor of this application. I do believe this is in character to what is, where this neighborhood is trending towards. The applicant did provide us with a great spreadsheet here of some very close properties. Taking a drive down in that area, you can see that the buildings in that area between 2.5 and 5 stories. We certainly are in need of the housing stock, as we've all discussed. The office building that's there's no demand right now for office buildings. That's going to sit there vacant. So this is a good exchange going over to an apartment building. I did have a chance to read the testimony from 2022. I think all those criteria still stand. I do believe that this was a good change to go to smaller apartments and increase the number of apartments with our housing needs. So for those reasons, I'm in favor of this application.
Thank you. Mr. Minkara?
I also support the application for the reasons stated, and would just add that, excuse my voice, when I looked at this, I look back at the decision that we made in 2022 and asked myself, really, what's changed? Is there something in the change in the neighborhood that would perhaps cause me to reach a different conclusion? And I think really the opposite is true. As was noted, we have a significant new multifamily building that was built right in the corner of Pine Street. So if anything, the character of the neighborhood is becoming denser. And certainly, again, that was a 5-story building. So then I asked myself whether or not the addition of 6 units would really change the outcome. And in this case, I don't think it would. I think that we've seen the analysis of the density in the area remains consistent. And also importantly, the building footprint actually shrinks, or at least would by a marginally. So the actual impact of the massing of the building would not increase. And further, shifting the building further towards Lake Street actually reduces the impact to some of the residential abutters. I certainly sympathize with the concerns that the abutter expressed about the loss of privacy. That's indeed true, and I certainly hope that should this go forward, that the applicants will work with the planning board and the neighbors to provide as much screening as is possible.
Thank you. Mr. Lionel?
Yeah, in addition to what my colleagues have already said, when I first saw this application, it just said we're changing from 24 to 30 units and didn't say why. And Attorney Perlman provided the why this evening, so that makes me feel a lot better about it. I do think this is a better plan overall. I don't think the increase in units will add any necessary intensity to how the neighborhood perceives it, especially given the already dense nearby buildings. and I would approve this plan.
Thank you. Ms. Boris?
I'm also in favor, and again, my colleagues all stated every reason why. Thank you.
I'm also in favor. Again, I appreciate the neighbors' concerns. We've seen this in several applications throughout the years that we've been serving on the board. But again, I think that this approval from 2022, as was stated, I think that the additional 6 units may sound like a lot, but I think, again, according to, the information we have in front of us that was provided for us, I think the added intensity is really minimal to what was going to be constructed there to begin with. So with that, I'm going to support the application. Anybody like to make a motion? Mr. McCara.
Find my bearings. I'd like to make a motion that the application for a variance of Progress Realty Trust, 84 Lake Street, at sheet 102, lot 4, requesting the following variances from Land Use Code Section 19016, Table 16.3.1, to exceed maximum number of stories, 2.5 permitted, 3 proposed, and 2, for minimum land area, 40,000 square feet, 40,040 square feet existing, 261,360 square feet required, to construct a 30-unit multifamily building. This is in the LB/RB zones because it's a split zone property in Ward 6. The motion is to approve the variant, to grant the variance. We find that the variance is needed to enable the applicant's proposed use of the property, given special conditions of the property, and that the benefits sought by the applicant cannot be achieved by some other method reasonably feasible for the applicant to pursue other than the variance. And essentially what we found is that given the overall character of the area, that it is mixed, that there's a number of other large buildings that exceed 4 stories, 5 stories in the area, that the proposed use is consistent with the density and the existing use of the property is essentially an obsolete office building. We find that it is within the spirit and the intent of the ordinance and that it would allow reasonable use of the property. It would not adversely impact surrounding property values, although we did hear concerns from an abutter about impacts to the use and enjoyment of their property, their privacy. We heard no testimony that there would be a negative impact to property values. It would not be contrary to the public interest. In fact, it would help advance the city's goals to create additional housing, and substantial justice would be done by allowing for a reasonable use of the property.
Mr. Neely, sorry. Any discussion? Mr. Neely?
Mr. Neely votes in favor.
Mr. Minkara?
Mr. McCarroll votes in favor.
Mr. Lionel?
Mr. Lionel votes in favor.
Ms. Boris?
Ms. Boris votes in favor.
And Mr. Boucher votes in favor. Congratulations, your application's been approved. Again, just for you, there is a 30-day window of appeal from this stated decision, okay? From there, if there's nothing done, then I would suggest that you go through the planning board. Thank you very much. I will close the public meeting for case number 4. Thank you. Have a good night, everybody. We have some meeting minutes here.
Yes, they're in the back of the summary that we got.
Okay.
Sometimes you don't get one of
Summary.
these unclaimed. This is from the post office. I sent a flip of all these things, all these letters, and give it back to
The back
us.
of this.
Oh.
We got that.
Does anybody see anything with the meeting minutes?
I don't know.
Needs to be changed?
It looked fine to me.
After,
Look fine to me.
Fine, okay. I'll make a motion to approve the minutes from,
Put it in my mailbox, or?
I believe they do.
what's the date here?
I'm not really sure. After we
Make a motion to approve the minutes from December 12th meeting.
Second.
Second by Mr. Lionel. Any discussion? None. Mr. Neely?
Mr. Neely votes in favor.
Mr. Minkara?
Mr. McCarroll votes in favor.
Mr. Lionel?
Mr. Lionel votes in favor.
Ms. Boris? maybe?
I
Yeah, she
closed
dropped
it by
off.
Okay.
accident.
And Mr. Boucher votes in favor, so that's 4-0. Okay. Okay, 4-0. And regional impact, there's 2 cases coming up. I didn't see anything in those cases.
No, I see no
Okay.
regional impact.
So there's no regional impact. Is there any other discussion?
Just the slate of officers for 2024. I'm guessing the board would want to wait until Rob's here, so we have a full board, all the full members here. So I want to maybe wait till the next meeting for that.
That'd be great.
Sure.
Other than that, that's all we had.
Okay, if there's nothing else, I'll make a motion to adjourn at 7:41. Okay, thank you.